Well, morning, sports fans. What's going on? 4:35 in the morning, West Coast time for Friday. It's December 6th, 2024. We're chilling out here in the Antelope Valley, Roseman, California. It is the Weaver of John C. Hey, so are we alive yet? Or are we awake yet? Yeah, it's about three. It's about 36 degrees. Yeah, it's a little nippy. So, taking a little time off to chill and monitor what's going on. The main story right now is the CEO manhunt. They're talking about that. There have been other side stories popping up on social media that not much of it's been recorded. I got a response video on this one here. TMZ was recording um, the problems concerning about the CEO who got his ass killed by somebody with a bad attitude and a gun, having three or a few rounds labeled. If I can get that information there. Put it as screenshots and loaded it up in here. And it's important. It's important to know this stuff. It's important to look at this stuff and understand what we're dealing with here because this is very screwed up. Okay, so the bullet said, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, that's the wrong one. Shit. Give me a second here. Cross referencing notes. Deny, defend, and depose. Almost similar to a book that was published about 14 years ago by a Rutgers law professor. Delay, deny, defend, talking about the healthcare industry. These guys are a day late and a dollar short. I talked about it in one of my videos. I probably didn't label it properly enough to get people's attention on the damn thing. And yeah, the healthcare industry would probably be using legal tactics to basically delay everything, deny, and then in the court systems defend their actions as being legal and justified. Out here in the state of California, we've got a California Insurance Commission. It's been out there for maybe about 20 years or earlier than that. Maybe a lot older than that, I should say. Because of all the insurance claims been piling up and the lawsuits and stuff happening with the major players we had out here, they had to have a way to make sure that the patients have an equal footing with the insurance companies. The insurance companies are supposed to help pay for things as long as you're paying in the premiums. You're paying into the funding. You might as well get something out of it, not just paying CEO's pocketbook. Problem is, the damn thing's been going on for a hell of a lot longer. I think since 70s, 80s. Because I know in the 90s they were really cooking up, but they weren't making the news all the time. Except maybe if there was a court case going against a company or two. And there should be press information about that somewhere. Okay, I kept coming across stories on the news, especially if someone was trying to gain attention from consumer reporters of how bad an insurance company was treating patients. We didn't have the social media up and running like we have it right now back in the 80s and 90s, where we're getting that technology and infrastructure working on there. We did have the dark web. We did have a bulletin board service. We had internet relay chats. We had those kind of areas that people would talk. And also the commercial like AOL and CompuServe and maybe a couple others out there. People would use the chats to talk about their topics. I know because I used a few of them myself. And I had AOL a long time ago. And it was the wild, wild west out there. But when it came down for talking about the insurance companies, the only way you'd be able to get attention is by talking to a news reporter about it. Everything else, you didn't hear anything about it unless there was uh, a major lawsuit on that one. These days, yeah, the internet's got a lot more capacity to talk about this in almost an infinite level there, almost. So, shall we talk about the insurance companies again? Said before in my earlier videos, I used to work for the Blue. I used to work for one of them that, in the state of California, had to be separated from its other partner. Every other state, you see the two icons together. But in the state of California, because we have laws in our books, they are separate. And I went to work for one of them through a temp agency. And I discovered that when you're going into a world of the insurance company, you're blown away. Now, when I was hearing about the Cross, they used to be nonprofit like the Shield was. I don't know if the Shield's still nonprofit or not. But at the time when I was getting hired up, nearly at the turn of the century here, they changed from nonprofit to profit because what was being told by some of the employees that I was hearing from, and they're scattered among the winds of time and space. I was hearing from the old timers before they dropped off one by one. Tried to get a retirement date, and they get dropped off by an earlier retirement date, or maybe a wave or two of people just disappearing. It happens. I took it as just, okay, it happens. Why? I don't know. But they used to be nonprofit. They used to treat their employees very well. There used to be like a party situation over there. But we didn't really hear about the nastiness of the Cross having issues. I didn't hear any issues concerning about the medical groups or doctor unions out there, or if there was any groups harboring the hospitals. I mean, it was just coming out. It's like a coming out party in the end of the 20th century to the 21st century. So now you got the profit groups out there combining everybody and trying to get as much money as they can from everybody else, and then drop kicking people left and right. Now you've got the news stories coming out there left and right, but back in the 80s and 90s when I was growing up, I didn't hear anything about it. There wasn't any talk about it. I had private insurance at one time through Blue Shield. I didn't do the Cross. I did the Shield when I was working back in the 80s and 90s. If I could afford the money, I would have it. Or be covered under my family's. There was family plans during those days on the Shield. And there was a PPO. We didn't do the HMO. We did the PPO. I didn't know if Ma knew about the insurance company more. I didn't think she did. But I know she knew accounting because that was her gig. So she would know numbers. And we would have to pay deductibles until we met the limit, and then the percentages would kick in, and then we would be covered at percentages concerning about office visits and labs and X-rays and CAT scans and stuff like that. That was back in the 80s and 90s. But I wasn't hearing any news back then if there was any major lawsuits happening. No class actions. I was trying to find that particular wording there. When I kept thinking about major lawsuits, I kept thinking, I know there's a class action. My aphasia must be kicking in or something. It's got to be. Anyway, there would have been news about class action lawsuits. They would have been putting them in the newspapers and also in the local and national. If it was prestigious enough, if it was precedent enough, if it was important enough. These days, I don't know anymore. Hell, I thought corporations were going to be ruling the world back in the 80s, and you know what? I was right. They were ruling the world. The CEO of United Healthcare should have, if he was getting threats, it could have been, it should have been, it would have been imperative for him to have protection. He didn't have it. He had his guard down. Boom. And it sucks. Sucks for his family. But as I was trying to indicate in my other previous videos, there had been a hell of a lot of animosity on this guy. And how did this guy know where the CEO was going to? Was it publicized that there was an investment meeting out in New York City? Was it posted in media? Was it posted on social media? Where was the information posted at? If this was supposed to be low key enough, how did this guy know about it? I was trying to make my indications on the other videos concerning about it. I was trying to give an indication that if you knew this, you should have protection of it. If you knew your company was under target, if you knew you were under target, wouldn't it have been prudent for the guy to actually have a body armor on him? Or at least have a guard or two with him? Wasn't. He didn't have street smarts. He paid for it. He paid for it with his life. Out here in Los Angeles, you should have had your street smarts. This is out in New York City. I'm not going to say anything else about the place. Should have been street smarts. He didn't have it. Probably didn't live in that kind of town anyway. Wasn't used to it. Should have been. It wasn't. So it had to be a personal animosity. I don't think it was a corporate hit. It was too sloppy. Way too sloppy. If one company is going to be taking out a CEO of another company, that's way too sloppy for a hit. No, this was personal. This was personal. And when I was watching the videos that they kept posting on social media, I was also trying to look at the guy shooting. Now, I had watched another video on YouTube from this one gun owner, or gun shop owner. I think he custom made guns as well. And a lot of his people are saying, well, wasn't this kind of type of gun? The guy's going, no, it's another type of gun. I don't know what the hell it was. But some things I had to listen for. Because the guy was trying to shoot and jam up at the same time. He's shooting, and the type of gun that he was using, apparently, you had to keep cocking, sliding the bolt back, and it kept jamming on him. It wasn't professional. It was amateur. Trained under a handgun, yes, but not proficient enough. But he did put markings on the bullet to make it personal. Now, either on the lead going into the body is one thing, but the shell casings, that was where the marks were. Deny, defend, delay. Similar to what a book was trying to say. I hadn't read that book. I hadn't come across that book. I need to see that book. If they're talking about the health insurance company, they're talking my area. I used to work there several years. Hell, I used to work in retail off and on. But that doesn't equate with healthcare insurance or bureaucracy or how much greed you can get out of the damn thing in the first place. And yeah, I understand the patients. I understand the patient's ire on this one. I do. I relate with it. It can be intimidating. It's screwed up in the first place. Because after being in a system like that, looking at the claim statuses, I was in the call center dealing with claim statuses and eligibility, quoting out to the doctors and hospitals. And the problem is, we didn't deal with the members. If we did, maybe it would have been a different world altogether I would have been living in. But I was dealing with the providers. And in order to get claims processed, you needed to have the doctor saying this is medically necessary. The doctors always have to say it's medically necessary, which really starts the ball rolling with the insurance companies of getting the authorization. They have to look for the medical necessity from the doctor. But then they have to look at the information and make that kind of human determination, whether or not it was actually legitimate or not. We've also had, when I was working over at Blue Cross in California, I mentioned the words. They had scam artists coming from different angles of saying it's medical necessary for one thing, and the insurance company pays off on the claims to the medical provider or to the scam artist. But you really had to look at the procedure codes and the diagnosis codes and where the place was coming from to make that connection. If we were under that kind of assumption for it, of why the claims get them denied, then that would have been class action lawsuits right there. If it's an AI program running it and saying that if they happen to see these set of criteria, they're not going to get authorized. Even if it's catastrophic, they're not going to get authorized. It sounds like it's that kind of thinking. How to affect the money. How to affect these other groups who are trying to gather up the doctors' groups and then dismantle them. Or the hospitals and facilities, get them, suck up the money as much as they can, and dismantle them. Breaking up healthcare left and right, offering them out of profit. This information wasn't, as far as I'm concerned, and I wasn't aware of it back in the 80s and 90s, because the information wasn't getting out there that we had these kind of blood-sucking leeches out there destroying companies left and right, or destroying doctors in hospitals. Except we did have some of the hospitals having money issues concerning about trying to keep their places open because the patients they would see didn't have insurance. They would use the emergency rooms as the doctor's offices for any little ills and wills, and they would have to stay there for longer periods of time because more of the medical cases would come in. They would be more of a priority right there. Unless, of course, those who didn't have the medical insurance were coming in under the emergency room as medical issues, sometimes catastrophic. And they would also have news stories running into the papers on that one. I remember when they were setting up the trauma centers, that we actually had a trauma network in California, in Southern California, where you would have a bunch of hospitals would be trauma related. And for a time, we actually had an excellent trauma center, trauma network. The problem was, it depended upon the people paying the bills, and if the insurance companies were actually paying the bills correctly on that one. And I should have been a stickler to more details, but I was a younger man, a younger kid, and I didn't know what the hell what I was looking at. Otherwise, if I was insurance savvy during that time, maybe I would have figured some things out, but I wasn't. Growing up as a kid, you're inundated with a hell of a lot of crap going on here. I can tell you that the bills were expensive even for medical treatment for kids. It could be catastrophic, hundreds of thousands of dollars. A heart operation, a serious heart operation, about like mine, would take about almost 200,000 back in 1970. Mitral valves leaking, and trying to keep a kid alive. That was costing in medical professional, facility, and other expenses needed, such as drugs, such as critical care. They had a crippled children's services fund, almost like the Medicare, Medicaid we got right now. But you still had to put up some of the money for it, probably in monthly payments if you had to. But something of catastrophic as a heart operation. I had a friend who put up a lot of collateral to save my life, so you could pay half mom's bills, and the other half crippled children's covered my heart surgery. And that was back in 1970. Back in 1970. I don't know if we had the blues back then. I could probably do a little Google on that one. And I don't know what kind of medical insurances we had back then. But it was expensive back then. It really was. Looking at today's insurance markets and hearing on a constant basis and looking at social media about doctor groups getting sued or getting closed down as soon as they gather it into one particular area, and if they got a private buyer coming in, swooping in, changes a hell of a lot of things. If the doctors actually had their own office building, get owned by a corporation, and the corporation shuts it down because they're still looking for the instant profit at this point, or even hospitals, for that matter. Hospitals would get shut down, delaying the health care and increasing the more pressure on the existing hospitals. And some of those doctors were getting out. They didn't want to deal with the insurance game because these guys are wanting more, and they couldn't get any payment at all from the people they got contracted with. So the only way they knew how to fight? Go dark. I'm sorry, I'm no longer having a shingle up here anymore. I no longer have a private practice. I'm no longer part of a group. I'm no longer part of a hospital. You have to find somebody else. It kills these guys. It kills these doctors who bust their ass left and right. Not to mention the specialists, the nurses. Even the nurses would be affected by this damn shit. If they could go back into another corporate area, are they going to be secure with their paychecks? Are they going to be secure at all? I mean, I usually rallied against the health care insurance trying to kill me one way or another. But to tell you the truth, I still have a lot of respect for these guys too. I just don't like getting poked and prodded and used as a lab rat. I never had. Feeling it so damn much, I had mental issues concerning about this damn thing. But I'll support the doctors and hospitals and groups and nurses and stuff because they work their asses off in this shit. It's bullshit what insurance companies and what these hedge fund guys are doing. They call them the Wall Street assholes. I don't know. Did they call them Wall Street assholes? Or just plain assholes? It's these guys, these corporate guys, are only in it for the money. Are only in it for the quick buck. High turnover, and then that's it. Shut them down. Take over another operation. Seen that play so many times. It's not even funny. And yeah, the CEOs, they know what's going on. They're the ones collecting all the damn pay. Then again, then you got the stockholders down below, shareholders, corporate schmucks below the CEOs and the COOs. Everyone's riding on the pig fat while everyone else is dying. And no wonder they got the people pissed off at them. I don't blame them. I don't blame them. The theoretical idea of the health insurance company is once you're putting in the money into the company, They're supposed to help cover and lay most of the costs. Patients still be responsible, unless, of course, you had other insurance coverages to take care of the additional. HMO plans, they were complicated, but not as complicated as the PPOs. That's why I stuck with the HMOs when I had the insurance. When I was working in a job and I actually had medical insurance I could actually afford or been provided for me, I'd go for HMO. I didn't go for PPO. This is well before I got into Blue Cross. Retail health doesn't give you that much. Going as a temp doesn't give you all that much. If you're in a corporate, if you're in a company and you actually qualify for medical insurance, I mean, I had to work in a company for about a year before I qualified for medical insurance, and then belly up on that one. So most of my life, I didn't have the medical insurance necessary to take care of my life because I was trying to struggle with other jobs off and on. It's not that easy either. You're coming out of high school with a high school diploma, can't get to college, so you struggle. You work your ass off. And my trade was finger pounding on keyboards all the time. Customer service, face to face, retail hell. Deal with the office work, deal with reception work, deal with general office, general schlub, that's what I was. And if I stayed at a job long enough and actually had medical insurance, I'd take it just to see how the old ticker was doing. And sometimes I didn't have that affordable insurance either. I did get into the last job I had. They gave me some medical insurance. And I still had to dump the damn thing because it was getting too damn expensive. And that's the same insurance company I got right now. I have to weigh my costs these days. I have to weigh what I'm trying to get, what I'm going to be using, what I'm going to be needing at this point. CEOs want to take more and more out of people's pocket because of the greed. Hook them to capitalism. This isn't an American invention, but it is out there. The rich get richer and the poor get screwed over. That's universal. You go back in history. As I said before in my channels, history, history, history. People don't want to study history. They don't want to learn history. They don't want to talk history. Because in history is where we learn our lessons. The building stones that we have in the past are building up to the point we are right now. And we're filling it up with our blood, motor, and everything else. And we're building something to the future, which is who the hell knows. Or for the next generation to survive our own damn mistakes. How does this relate with a CEO getting shot and killed? People don't learn. People don't care to learn. And if they did, would we still have these kind of mistakes left and right? Going on hollering, people screaming and yelling, not to mention the independents having a field day over this shit. People don't learn. They don't want to be. They want to be stupid, and they want to be spoon-fed. No one ever to keep repeating the same damn dumbass mistakes. History, history, history. And to these people, history sucks.